So I want to create a video to talk about why I want to join Doctors Without Borders. I want to create a video to explain in far more detail than any job application ever could when it comes to my history, my background, and how it can all benefit as a logistics specialist. Just to give you a little insight, I was with the military for 3 years straight out of high school. After the military for 3 years, where I was stationed at Fort Irwin, California, I'm doing national training for desert warfare. I left the military and for a brief stint, I was with Best Buy for 10 years, a brief stint, right? After Best Buy, I was with Michael's Arts and Crafts Store. Some of you might have heard that one too. I was with them for 9 years. And I'm at the point in my life now where I've got to do my dream. I'm not getting the happiness that I want in a daily routine, a daily job. I don't feel like I'm actually adding anything to the world. I just want to help. Now, for me, internationally, I grew up overseas. I wouldn't say my whole life I grew up overseas, but when I was 12 and 13 years old, I lived in Saudi Arabia. That was a unique experience. I loved it. I learned a lot from it. I learned a lot about a culture that's uniquely different, with unique laws. No alcohol, although I was 12, 13 years old, so who cares, but there was a lot of laws. I was a male there, so it was a lot easier for me. But my passion for travel grew ever since then. My parents joined the State Department, where I got to live in Côte d'Ivoire in Ivory Coast, right next to Ghana. I was there for about 5 months. It was in between, after my high school graduation and between that and my delayed entry program into the Army. That's where I got my first job. It was a summer job. I got to work with a bunch of locals. I had 13 to 18 locals work for me. It's minor work, warehouse work, where we delivered equipment being shipped in, and we fully furnished houses and apartment dwellings and stuff like that. Anyone that was coming in to work for the State Department, I took care of that. I created such an outstanding bond with the locals. Only 2 of them spoke English. Out of the 2, only 1 spoke it well. And of course, those 2 guys had days off too. So I had to learn to communicate with people that could only speak French. So at the age of 18, I learned how to communicate very well, visually, showing people how to do things of that nature, where you couldn't actually just speak the directions. I learned to teach myself to be ambassador of the country, although I really wasn't, but I wanted to be an outstanding person when it comes to an American traveling overseas. They view us in a positive light. That was something of a focus of mine when I was 18 years old. My greatest experience, even though I've traveled to over 30 countries, close to 40 countries in my lifetime, Africa's always been the greatest experience. I got to see poverty firsthand, and helping those locals at work, I became very close with them. Now, I want to continue that experience and come back to Africa and help. And I've always wanted to go back to Africa and help. Ever since I got out of the military, when I made it back to California, I had a small stint in Savannah, Georgia for a year and came back to California when I was out of the military with Best Buy. And when I was with Best Buy, I joined the Rotary Club and the Lions Club at the same time, and I did both for between 1 year to 2 years, depending on my workload at work at Best Buy as a manager. And I did that because I was trying to find an avenue to where I could help people in some form or fashion. I was just trying to find anything I could do. And I mean, it wasn't enough for me, so I didn't stay with it long term. Granted, it helped kids with glasses that couldn't afford glasses for the Lions Club. The Rotary Club was great for the little money donations that we could do for students going to college that had really great grades but couldn't afford some things. So I felt good about it, but I wasn't helping people as much as I wanted to. So for years, not since I was with Best Buy, but for years I've been watching Doctors Without Borders, something I've been watching for many, many years, probably at least a good, maybe even close to 9 years. Maybe ever since I started with Michaels. Later on, after that, I even started following Engineer Without Borders. So, having the opportunity when I noticed on the website where you could be a logistics specialist, I have years and years of leadership experience with multiple companies. I mean, ever since I was in the military, I've had leadership experience. I mean, my first job in the world in Ivory Coast, I was a leader. Even with Ivory Coast, on my last day at work, the main manager of the entire facilities, and that had to do with water, electrical, housing, everything, just everything that had to do with facilities. That manager wanted to sit down with me, invited me to his office, and I thought, oh my God, did I get in trouble on my last day? And when he sat me down, he just wanted to ask me one question. He asked me how I got a group of people as large as I did work so well under me. And all I said was, I created a relationship with them. So that was another part of Ivory Coast that touched me a great deal. So you'll see me whip out my phone a lot because I actually have checkpoints that I should talk about. Let's talk about my travels. My stint in Ivory Coast was pretty much really my own stint in Africa. I've been all over South America, like Colombia, Peru, Honduras, Mexico, all over the Caribbean, Cuba, the Virgin Islands, both US and British. Let's see. Europe, literally everything in Europe except for Poland, Norway, Ireland, Iceland. Let's see, I said Poland. Haven't been to Russia. A lot of the eastern countries like Chechnya and all those other places in the eastern side, all the newer countries that have been created that became independent, I haven't been to. So I've been to France, Italy, Spain, Switzerland, Austria, Germany, Luxembourg, Denmark, Sweden, England, Greece. God, I'm probably missing a whole bunch. I've been to Turkey, Israel, Cyprus. I'm in Asia. I recently just got back from Singapore, literally a month ago. Spent 2 weeks there. Went to Malaysia. No, I take that back. Did not go to Malaysia. I went to Indonesia. Malaysia was on the venue, but I just did not make the time. In Asia, I've also been to Hong Kong, Thailand, and then I've also been to Australia. Each place usually around 2 weeks. Oh, I've been to Belize. I was only there for 5 days. Wasn't a big fan. So in essence, that's my travels. Another thing that pushed me more towards Doctors Without Borders on a daily basis, just thinking about it, what really pushed me is I was in a major motorcycle accident about 3.5 years ago. I was hospitalized for about 7 months. I was in intensive care for about a month, And then I went to a separate unit where they just took care of me in between where I had to go do operations. So I literally was bedridden for 7 months. Had to go through the struggle to learn how to walk again, all that good stuff. Had this amazing mustache that Tom Selleck would be jealous of. Probably the worst hairstyle known to mankind, because I think during that 7 months, I never got a haircut. I was actually literally growing a mullet in the hospital. And that's where I gained I always respected the medical industry, but when you get to feel it firsthand, I mean, I have a deep, sincere, amazing feeling when it comes to the medical industry. The doctors where I was at was absolutely amazing. The nursing, gotta love the nurses. And the coolest thing that I learned from the nurses and the doctors was they commented and talked positively on my personality, on my behavior and my attitude, because I was always very positive. I mean, even when I was coming to and I was still coming through my concussion, and I still don't recall some of these things, but my sister was posting on Facebook while she was at the hospital some of the joking I did with the doctor and the nurses, even in such in a traumatic situation. And throughout my time during that 7 months, before and after operations, during the pains and the miseries, having to poop in my bed, having an IV installed in my heart for the long period of time. Going through all that, I was very positive. I don't know how. I mean, I started looking back at it and like, I was just sitting in the bed, watching a little TV, doing a little reading. I couldn't do like book reading because I couldn't hold a book or a magazine because my arms were both in casts. I had this gigantic thing wrapped around my waist, metal-wise, because my pelvis was pretty much shattered. Some parts were actually powder. I could get shot with a gun with my left ass cheek and I wouldn't even feel it to this day. But I can run just as good as I did in the military. Can't do as many push-ups. Physically, I have a little bit of a fear of jumping as much as I used to when I used to skateboard and stuff like that. But my knees are good. My body, I mean, I can run 3 miles if I had to, no problem. I can do sit-ups, push-ups, a whole bunch of things. My shoulders are amazing. So I was very blessed at the turnout when I went through all those surgeries. Got some amazing scars to show people. If you guys pick me to join the club, I'd love to show you all those scars. They're pretty entertaining. But just back to the doctors and the nurses and just being around and helping people that are in dire needs. I mean, I have something, and I don't know, I can relate to people that are going to be in a tough times, and I can talk to them in a way where they can feel positive, even if it's a tough time where maybe they shouldn't be feeling positive. I'm still have ways to make them positive and start thinking positive. It'll help with the recovery. So I can bring that to the table, definitely. Now, one criteria that was like a warning on the site for if you're wanting to join the group was the weather conditions. Extreme heat, possibly even cold. Now in Africa, I know the majority of it's going to be extreme heat and humidity. So if that's the case, you got me. I grew up in Saudi Arabia for 2 years, 140-degree heat. I played soccer in it, drank a lot of water. Fort Irwin was on the edge of Death Valley, stationed there for 3 years. And I worked in that heat from sunrise to sunset, about 23 to 24 days out of the month. We usually got 4 days off at the end of the month, and sometimes we'd get 1 or 2 days off in some different parts of the month and different times. But otherwise than that, I was in the field the majority of the time in the sun. Had a great tan. So I know how to work in the heat, that's not a problem. Same reason why I'm doing this video is to show and to prove how much I want to work with the organization Doctors Without Borders, MSF. I would love to work with your organization. It's been a dream of mine since I was 18 living in Africa to do something to help people, and I've had this emptiness in me all these years since then. I'm 42 years old. Do the math, it's been a very, very long time, and I'm willing to do anything to close that door and fulfill that emptiness and help people. And this is something to where I want to make it a lifelong career. I mean, for the rest of my life, pretty much type thing, for as long as I can do it. This is it. This is me telling you how badly I want this. I wanted to take the time to provide you with video that could go over some of my experiences, some of my histories, my travels, all those things that I feel that could be very helpful with your organization and the position I'm applying for, that you just can't write down in an application or a resume. So please, I'm ready to go when you're ready to take me, literally.